Hey, here's your heads up. This is a longer podcast, but it's not that long. But it's all about some questions that I asked myself, of which I'm going to ask you to think about, to muse. And then I'm going to ask you a very, very important question right at the very end. And then it'll be up to you whether you answer it or not. No pressure, but there is. Because it could mean such a different life for everyone if we all answer this question. And I'm going to give it to you to answer right now. At the end, that is. After this. Hey, for those of you who don't know what this podcast's about, well, it's all about obviously personal development. Unplugged, why unplugged? Well, what we're going to do is break down, deconstruct all the things that are made bloody difficult by a lot of people. They tell you what they're doing, but they don't tell you how they did it. And that's what we're going to do, break down what they do into the hows and make wonderful changes. There'll be things that are stopping you, and we'll be helping you find out why that's happening and how can you change that. Because when you do, dreams become reality, and you then become a dreamer of big dreams, creating the most wonderful, brightest, most exciting new reality you can ever find. Anyway, that's it. Who am I? I'm Paul Clough. I am an NLP trainer, a master hypnotist. I do all sorts of things that will blow your mind. Come and enjoy it with me.
Warning. You are entering into the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. Too late. Personal Development Unplugged.
Hey, my friend, how you doing? Can I ask you a question? Yeah, can I ask you a question? Because this is the question that I've started to ask myself, and I'm going to find the answer. Well, find the answer to one of these questions I want to put to you. Maybe you can give me the answer. Maybe you've got some experience that you can, or experiences that you could say, well, this is what I do. Who knows? But I want to ask you this question. And maybe, if you're like me, you'll take some time out to consider and think about your answer maybe you'll come to an answer really quickly, but I think this is one of those questions that I struggle with, therefore I want to take more time because I think there's a good answer somewhere. And I know I'm being totally vague, and it's not artfully vague like a wonderful hypnotist to draw you in, to get you to think, like leaving gaps like that to draw you in even deeper. Or am I? Who knows? Am I in your mind? But that's an aside. You see, let me tell you this little story of how this all happened, this question in my mind, how it all happened. You see, it all started, as most things do, in my journaling. And I'm not pushing journaling. No. I'm just telling you what happened, because I'd finished my journaling that morning, but I'd also been out for a walk with a dog. And I'd also been looking at a YouTube video that caught my attention. And it was all about Stoic advice. And it was like, I think it was Ryan Holiday, sure it was, giving 7, 10 rules or 10 bits of advice, I think it was, from the Stoics. Thousands of years old, donkeys years old. And they made so much sense. They really did. I couldn't argue with any one of them to say, well, I'm not so sure about that. Because they were so simple. And I love simple here. I know you probably love simple too. Not because it's too easy, but we found a simple way, an easy way to understand things. Break down the complicated. That's one of the aims here. But you see, at the same time, in my journaling and then listening and watching this Stoic advice and taking it in, I'm already, my words today. I'm also reading, and I'm struggling to read it. And it's a book by Alan Watts. And if you've ever listened to him, he's a great orator. or orator, however you say it, and this book. Well, you have to go with it. You really have to dive in and stick with it, because it's, well, maybe just me, but I'm finding it a struggle. But I'm sticking with it. And as I'm reading it and sticking with it, Alan Watts explains how, I guess, learnings and teachings of the Tao, the way, and that's thousands of years old. And he links that with some of the learnings and teachings and Buddhist thoughts. And he goes through one or two other very, very old teachings. And they all have a commonality. They're all teaching roughly the same type of thing. And they're all donkey's years old. And then at the same time, I'm thinking about the little struggle. I struggle a lot here, aren't I? I'm struggling to live by a book I've read and reading again, The Four Agreements. Very briefly, it's being impeccable with your words, inside and out. Not taking anything personally. Try not to assume, and to always be your best. How complicated is that? But it's not, is it? It's not complicated. They're all damn easy. Easy to understand. Simple to understand. There's no complication there. I don't even have to break it down for myself, breaking the complicated down into those simple things. But they all come from teachings of donkeys years ago. I don't know where the donkeys come into that saying, but that's what we say here. Donkeys years ago. Donkeys years old. And I got to thinking, you see, when I putting all these little struggles together, I was sitting there with my journaling, and this is where the struggle came, and I started to muse. I got to thinking, this advice, these teachings, they're not rocket science, are they? It's not complicated. It's not complicated to understand. In fact, as I said, it's simple. Simple as, however you want to finish that sentence, because it is. And they haven't changed. That advice, those learnings haven't changed for years, even with new technology. Because, I mean, being donkeys thousands of years old, things have changed. And if you think over the last 100 years, how technology has changed our lives. And the thing to me is, the more life changes, or technology tries to change our lives, and new opportunities that it brings us, these learnings, these teachings, become even more relevant. They remain the same, yet even more relevant today than they did back then. And that freaks me out. It really freaks me out in a way that I think, well, if these are so simple, if they resonate so deeply within me, and they're standing the test of time even more through very testing times, then I got to thinking a couple of things. You see, I had to ask myself a question. This is another question, by the way. I asked myself, musing over this now, how can I remember to try to live, strive to live my life by these learnings? Because they didn't come to me as a shock. A lot of them I've learned through different forms. A lot of my NLP, my hypnotherapy, my timeline therapy, my change work, as it were. The processes that I know I've developed come from, I think, a lot of those learnings. They make perfect sense. I'll say that again. They make perfect sense. And I don't even like the word perfect, but they do. They make perfect sense. So the question I asked myself was, how can I wake up and boom, be in the groove? Be in the groove and live by these lessons. Utilize these lessons and do them all day long. Now, I'm going to guess that I probably do live by a lot of them. It's just I'm not consciously aware of them, which really sometimes pisses me off, because I'd like to be aware that I'm actually doing some good stuff. And sometimes maybe I'm just unconsciously in the flow or doing stuff and I miss it. Maybe I've got to get my unconscious mind to flash me a few memories to let me know. Certainly since doing this and thinking about this, I've noticed that when I'm working with clients, I'm becoming more aware of what I'm doing, but also intuitively doing things that I wasn't aware of and then becoming aware of them, which is quite weird. So I am becoming aware, but not quite aware, but I still want to live by these wonderful teachings. And I'm going to work it out. I'm going to work out how I can really install this into my behaviors, my habits, to make them a real part of me. And when I do, I'm going to share it with you. Now, what I wanted to know was, I want you to think about that too. And if you've got a way that you install or use and remember to use these type of things, maybe you'll share it with me. I'd love to hear about it. The email, feedback@personaldevelopmentunplugged.com. Share it with me. I'd love to know. And then maybe we can share it with others. So we get this wonderful wealth of integrated field of learning that gets richer and deeper, and everyone gets to live a life through these very simple, dynamic, but wonderfully high-valued way of being. We see that's another struggle to do that, but what a wonderful struggle, isn't it? What a wonderful struggle to strive to live a really good life. Maybe not beat yourself up quite so much when you don't, knowing that you'll learn from it. But then I had another thought, and go with me on this. Just have a think, if you would, because this is what I thought. Question number 2 it was. If these teachings, these learnings from donkey's years old, to me are so obviously right for a life of richness, and when I say richness, I don't mean money. It can mean money as well as living a rich life through experiences, through just enjoying life, joy, bliss, love, sharing, being, doing. I think they are the most important values, or part of the makeup of the most highest values to live a rich life. Why don't we all do them? Why don't we? Because I see on the news, I see on Facebook, and I see on other places, YouTube, the vitriol that goes out to people. That sometimes it's pure hatred, let alone just the little snipes people have to put people down or try to big themselves up. And not one of those, when you look at it, are any way aligned to those learnings. Yet they're so simple in a way of getting richness, because those other ways will never get you a rich life. If you're looking to put people down, to get one over on somebody, to show off, as it were, that's not going to get you a rich life, is it? So I thought to myself, what would happen if we did? And then what stops people? Because I know what would happen if we did. Life would be fucking awesome, wouldn't it? With everybody doing their own wonderful things, creative things. It would be so rich in experience, knowing that everyone is trying to do the best for themselves, the people around them, and little old planet Earth. True ecology. It'd be awesome. So what stops them? That's the other question I came up with. What stops them? So is it greed? Is it ego? Is it your past experiences? You see, I believe when you're born, you have wonderful values: truth, honesty, love, compassion, wanting to do the right thing. And it's only through experiences that gets misshapen, maybe, faded, greyed, taken out of context. And then we form these limiting beliefs. The thing is, if we could just go back, because I know those people. I mean, there's also these other people who would put these lovely memes up. And the words on those memes are lovely, but I do wonder sometimes, is it just talking the talk and not walking the walk? Because if, with all those memes around, if people were actually walking the walk and talking the talk together, we would start influencing the few. And we're going back to another thing, the few, the small becomes big, the few becomes many. But in this way, the few is the many of doing wonderful things. Because there's so many people who have good experiences. There's so many people who have so, gold inside them. We all have, I believe. So I wonder, how can we do that? How could we do that? Can we? Because I don't like to admit it, but I know there's ego in me. Of course there is. I know, and I don't like to admit it, but there's probably some greed in there somewhere that I really try to push away if it's there and get rid of it. But I know I've certainly got some past experiences that have tainted my behaviours, some limiting beliefs that have come from those experiences, and I'm working on them. I'm grateful that I can work on those things, and I'm changing. But I thought, what's the answer to that? And then I thought, what did you think, Cluffy? I know there's a little suspense there. I don't want to swear. Do you know what I thought? What the fuck? I guess I got to go first. I got to go first with all the others who are going first too. Because there are a lot of people going first too. But we've all got to go. We've all got to show ourselves, sing from our real voice, show up, stand up, let our voices ring, let our behaviours show the way, become the change we want to see in others. And that's my question to you. Love you to think about all this stuff. But my question is, are you going to come first too? And see what we can do in our own way? There you go. That's it. That was my thoughts. A little bit sombre, I know. But hey, we'll get to a more joyful one. But no, this is good. Just imagine a world where we're all going first to make the world a better place, to make life for others around us a better life, and to make our life full of joy and bliss, to be the change we want to see in ourselves, experience the change we want to see in ourselves, be that thing, and be the change we'd love to see in others. Go first, being you. And that's it. Can you go first in being you? Hey, so before you go, I just want to say a big thank you because so many of you are now sharing this podcast, the Personal Development Unplugged podcast, and it is making a difference. I know it is, but please don't stop. Please keep paying it forward. Share it to everyone you know. Share what you learned from here and tell them where you got it from. In that way, we'll be making a difference. And also, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Look on that player of choice, that platform that you listen on, whether it's Castbox, Google Play, iTunes, or whatever it is. Please look for that subscribe button, if you could, because that makes so much of a difference too. It helps people find this little old thing that we're doing, and will make a difference to you, them, and this little old planet Earth. And it make me feel bloody good too. So please do that, and do remember, there is free hypnosis. Where do you get it? You go to paulcloughonline.com/podcast and get those 45 plus tracks of hypnosis. Have fun with them and make a difference to you, make a difference to the world. Okay? See you soon.
Warning, you are now leaving the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. It's time to fly on your own. Be brave, my friend.
Personal Development Unplugged.